This is Johnny Bluestar. Welcome to Threshold, a global media event. Is the universe just a random dance of atoms, or is it a manifestation of a supremely intelligent architect? Can its purpose, or our purpose here on Earth, be adequately assessed? Can we commune with it, know its intentions, cooperate with its direction? Here, we define threshold as a gateway state of awareness, allowing mankind to cross into a place of real cognition. Threshold allows us to approach questions of higher reality through the door of experience, rather than mere belief. Welcome to Threshold, where we tear away the veil from commercial media, bringing our audience and participants into another realm of reality and enhanced communication.
Welcome to Threshold Radio. My name is Johnny Bluestar.
And my name is Stephanie Slevin.
Together we're going to work to bring our listeners to new dimensions of thought and an understanding of reality, not just from our perspective, but from many perspectives that are out there now. Hopefully that the end product will be a kind of alignment with an understanding of how things work in this strange universe of ours.
Yeah, well, what's strange to some people is familiar to others, you know, and I think there's an explanation for everything, just sometimes people don't want to hear that explanation.
Well, I think in your case, with all respect, and said in the most respectful and appreciative way I can know, that you are a person who's quite different from the ordinary person. You are someone who I think...
suppose. I've been called many things in my life, different, strange, and people say weird, because sometimes people don't understand what they're dealing with. But sometimes I find if I talk to someone and they actually listen, they'll come around, or they'll roll their eyes to the sky and think, we've got a weird one here. But when you stop seeing weird, you'll start seeing wonderful. I think there's an explanation for everything, you just have to be open to that explanation.
Well, I think that the difference between you and other people is that you were kind of born very early into what I would call two worlds. A world of the so-called real world, where the physical world, but you were also in touch with other realms. Isn't that correct?
I think I agree with you there, Johnny, because I actually wrote a quote. Well, it was actually whispered to me, as you know, I get quotes whispered to me. And it was said, though I walk in two worlds, I've always been one with the other. So yeah, that's kind of true.
You know, I know your history pretty well, and I think that this whole event kind of started very early. Tell us a little bit about your first memories of your childhood.
Well, that's strange because I have a memory of when I was about 18 months old, and I'm running in this forest. It's a lovely memory, and I'm chasing a ball, which is a red and yellow ball. And behind me, there's this little white cottage with a flat roof. But the strange thing is, my hair's blonde in this memory, and I was a brunette. And I wrote a poem about it, and I put my grandmother into the poem. But I don't understand why my hair's blonde in this memory. So it might be from a past life. But because my childhood with my grandmother was very happy, and I was happy in this memory, I put her into the poem.
Yeah, I know that you might go into this a little bit, you have a special appreciation and thankfulness to your grandparents at the time. You might tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was born in London and I was sent to live with my grandparents. I was a very young baby, so I was about 3 months, 6 months, I'm not sure the actual age, but it was in between in those months because I have pictures of me being 6 months when I was there. And I thought they were my parents. I didn't actually know they were my grandparents. And I was raised in a little house. It had a concrete yard, an outside toilet, no bathroom, tin bath. But I knew nothing but love. And though we didn't have much money, we had a fortune because I had all the love. They gave me so much love. And they really were wonderful people. And because when I was taken away from them at 6 years of age and put into the complete opposite situation, a house of horrors I call it, that love saved me. I believe that love has always been my saviour. That's why I appreciate the simple things, because they meant everything to me and they still do.
That's very beautiful.
Thank you.
To have that kind of help. In my case, I I was pretty good with my parents until I was around 7 or 8. But then I had some problems with being bullied and so forth. And those problems really began a difficulty with my parents, which I had until they passed away. So I really understand. It wasn't the same thing as you. I wasn't being tormented physically, as I understand you were, by my parents. But it was kind of a psychological torment. My real problem was that I was born with a desire for higher knowledge. I always knew there was a God. I wanted to find spirituality, and that wasn't really part of my home life. And so I felt something was always missing.
Yeah, well, I think certain circumstances and the way you're treated, you'll always feel like there's something missing, you know? I mean, I don't know how my life would have been had I not had the love and care of my grandparents. And had it been, obviously, when I was born in London, if I'd have stayed with my parents, there was a lot of abuse. Not just physical, mental, but there was torture. Some people say to me, "Oh, you say you were tortured?" Yeah, I was tortured in certain ways, not just beaten. There was some sexual abuse, though not by the hands of my parents. But it was a completely different world. I've often described it as being in heaven and dragged first feet into hell, because it was two complete opposites. One was horrific, and one was heaven. One was heaven, and one was hell. But I always have that heaven to look back on. That's the thing I always look back on. And that's what gives me such beautiful songs. And obviously I have dreams, and I hear whispers, and they tell me beautiful things and give me beautiful songs. So maybe it was meant to happen that way, you know?
Well, after years and years of various experiences, of which I will say that during much of this time I was quite negative. I was quite angry because of my work. I felt that my work wasn't being recognized, and some of my clients had done things to me that wasn't very good. But I went through a change where I started to look at source, in other words, an experience, a higher experience for my, sort of for my consciousness. And by doing that, by starting to look and putting God first in a certain way, I started to interfere with all my negativity. And a lot of my negativity passed. And I do have access to certain places in myself if I'm not in a really externally impossible situation that makes me feel like I'm growing spiritually. And that has helped me.
Yeah, same, Johnny. I mean, I didn't even realise I was a spiritual person. Obviously, I went off the rails a bit, because the thing that's bothered me the most, that haunts me through the years, is the pain of my grandmother, is watching her pain, seeing her suffer, that she wasn't allowed to see me, and my father was very verbally abusive towards her when she tried to see me. And I'd witnessed this from the window and things like that. But so she suffered. Their lives were never the same again, my grandparents. And I've always kind of blamed myself for that, even though I know it's not my fault. And my grandmother would never want me to blame myself. But you do kind of feel guilty, for if I hadn't been born, she wouldn't have had to suffer. And then I look back as well, and I think because of that suffering, I'm writing all these wonderful songs to help people that are also suffering. It was like it was meant to happen. So it's kind of strange. God works in strange ways.
Well, it gave you a kind of compassion and empathy for other people.
Well, yeah, I think if you, to feel someone else's pain, you have to look through their window. And that's the time I felt the most intense pain. When I looked through the window and I was 9. I actually thought I was 8, but I was 9 years of age. And my father was sending my grandmother away, and it was raining. And she wore sunglasses in the rain to hide her pain. And it did something to me. Because although I was able to write things, I used to write very cheerful things at one time when I was younger, that day something changed, and I felt this intense, I think I felt an intense spiritual pain, and my words took on a new form. I started becoming an empath and feeling other people's pain, and I was able to write songs about it. But back then I didn't know it was songs, because I didn't know I had any gifts or talents, because my parents told me I didn't, and I always believed them because of the abuse, you know.
Well, I would say that you were probably one of the most prolific songwriters there is.
But when I look back, I've always had a gift. You know, people say it's probably because of the trauma. It just changed because of the trauma. I was able to see and hear things from a very early age, from the age of 3. And they've always been wonderful things that I've heard in spirit. It must be awful for someone on the other side of the spectrum to hear very dark, negative voices and dark things. I've always seen the light, had visions of the light, and had beautiful things said to me by spirits in dream and whispers. So it's always been a positive thing, even though all that horror was happening around it. Something beautiful was being made. I just didn't realise it at the time. Actually, for decades, people started reading my work and saying, "Oh my God, you're a singer-songwriter." And I'm like, am I? I didn't even know that I was. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. I think I was just kind of brainwashed. And you have to work on yourself day by day. It's a daily thing. It takes years, forever, really.
Well, we're going to take a break now, Steph, and we'll come right back and discuss more after the break.
Thank you, Johnny.
Do you have a media project that seems burned, even branded into your mind and soul? Do you ponder over it all day and think about it during restless nights? You have an ardent desire to make it happen, but you know you need help. You realize it may cost a bit, but you know it will be worth it. And you found me. Maybe because of a referral, maybe you heard one of my broadcasts, or just happened on my website or profile and felt a special prompting that you should check this out. Well, maybe, just maybe, you came to the right place. The reality is that I only want projects that intrinsically embody an unusual level of passion and commitment. Perhaps you feel guided to create this project, that it is hooked to your imagination in an undeniable way. Is something in you just demanding you to create it? If this project is important to you with that level of interest and conviction, then I am interested. Why is that? Because I believe that a certain type of passion demonstrates that you and your project are connected to the universe in a special way, and if so, I might like to help you facilitate and perfect that connection. Now the question might be, what kind of a project do you have? Well, it doesn't matter to me if it's a film script, a nonfiction book, an ad campaign, a novel, a song, a kick-ass website, or just publicity that can match the passion of your ongoing project. For one reason or another, I have a widespread background in creating very diverse media projects, for that is my passion. To qualify this further, creating content and promotional materials for media projects that are consequential and important to my client, myself, and probably for the rest of the world is exactly what I want to do. Many of my projects are collaborative, which involve an upfront fee, but also profit sharing. If any of this seems relevant to you, contact me and let's see what we can work out.
You know, we were talking about your childhood experience, and there's a lot to your childhood experience, not just what you mentioned before, but one of the things that has intrigued me recently was that I discovered that you had some, quote, near-death experiences when you were quite young. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, Johnny. One of those experiences was at the hands of my mother when she tried to drown me in the bar, and which she did quite a few times actually, hold me under the water, and I was like coughing and gurgling, and the water was going up my nose and down my throat. And I kind of remember, because I was very young, I was about, I think 7 or 8 maybe, and I kind of started seeing these lights, and they were beautiful lights. It was kind of a euphoric feeling. So it went kind of from terror, struggling to kind of get my head above water, to going into this place of euphoria. And I see lights and I see spirits, but I couldn't see them properly because they were kind of, though they were kind of lightish colour, they were phased out. So I couldn't see if they were male or female, but I could feel they were male and female, but I couldn't see their features. They were kind of like fuzzy, if that makes sense.
Did you think that you were, out of your body? Were you aware of that idea?
No, I don't think I thought of that at the time, because I was only young. I didn't really know what was happening. It's only as I got older and I started to hear stories from different people and do research that did I realise it was a near-death experience. So when I look back now, do I see what actually happened?
Well, one of the characteristics of a near-death experience is the euphoria, because you're not supposed to be euphoric when you're drowning. And you're gasping for air. It's very unpleasant, and then suddenly when you move into another place where you can see things, but you're also feeling this comfort, I think that is very typical of a near-death experience. And what about the second experience?
Well, the second experience, I jumped into a swimming pool. It was late at night, and no one was around. Everyone was sleeping. It was like on a holiday with the school. I think I was about 10, 11, 12, around that age. And I remember jumping into the swimming pool. Why I jumped in there, I don't really know. I know that I wasn't very happy at that time. Things was like very bad at home and not so pleasant at school either. So I went down to the bottom of the pool and it was dark. And I remember in my mind thinking, how am I going to get back up, even though I jumped in there? And I just remember seeing lights again. I don't remember really struggling that much, maybe a little, but I remember seeing lights and kind of spirits, and again the feeling of euphoria. And then I kind of remember, maybe someone told me, because it's such a long time ago, to move my feet and push myself. And I felt myself rising to the top of the pool. And when I got to the top, I got out. And obviously I was drenched and went back into the house that we were staying in.
Did you feel that there was any kind of aftermath from either of those experiences? Were there any kind of effects on your life? Did your life change in any way, or was it basically the same?
It changed in a way that I think I became more in tune with the gifts that I already had, but didn't realise at the time that they were gifts, and I started to hear more whispers. And I believe that when you have an experience like that, not only do you come back, you bring something back with you. And then, because I've always been in tune, especially more with my psychic abilities in the spirit world since that happened to me.
I think that it would be appropriate to play one of your songs about how you talk to angels. Would that be all right?
That's fine, Johnny.
I talk to angels and they speak to me. They show me things that I don't usually see. Well, 'cause somewhere in heaven God looks down with love, showing off mankind. But we just push and shove one another to the ground, making unholy sound. But if you want to talk to angels, you gotta spread your heart around every town. I saw an angel at the end of my bed. He looked at me, but not a word was said. Well, 'cause somewhere in heaven God believed in me, as he does us all. Just awaits us to see he is there, everywhere, all around, every time. Yes, I talk to angels and they speak to me. They lead me places they want me to be. Well, 'cause somewhere in heaven God looks down with love, showing us mankind, but we just push and shove one another to the ground, making unholy sound. But if you want to talk to angels, you gotta spread your heart around every town, every town.
Well, thank you. I think that's a beautiful song. And tell us a little bit more about these whispers you have mentioned.
Well, I've always heard whispers. I moved a lot because I used to be frightened of these things. And they followed me everywhere. I couldn't escape it. I didn't know what was really happening. But then when I started to look back and people started to say to me, you have a lovely singing voice and you write such pretty poetry, I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't be afraid of these things. And I just started to listen to them and not kind of block them out. Because I tried to block them out because I was afraid of it, Johnny. I didn't really know what was happening because I wasn't educated on those sort of subjects. I was kind of going astray a bit. What was happening, the abuse situation at home and everything kind of messes up your mind a little bit, Yeah. But I must make one thing clear. People always said to me, because of what happened to me at the hands of my parents, that's what brought out my gift. but it wasn't, because my gift was there before that, when I was living with my grandparents. It just changed the course of which it was going. So rather than I was writing about bumblebees and drawing suns and bumblebees, I started writing about pain and people's feelings and people's traumas. It just changed it. But I think it was meant to happen, so... Yes, and I've seen an angel. I saw an angel standing at the end of my bed. So...
How old were you then?
I was an adult. This wasn't actually that very long ago. So, a few years ago. But I actually got out of my bed, because I have a dimmer switch, and I turned the light on and it disappeared. And then I turned it down again, and he was there again. He didn't have no features on his face, but I knew it was a man. And he was very, very tall. Very tall. Like 8 foot, maybe. And I didn't realise at the time, but when I saw his white covering, it was actually wings, and very feathery. Didn't feel menacing. Felt like, euphoric, peaceful, and it wasn't menacing. And it was kind of like a man, but kind of a bird as well, if that makes sense.
A bird?
Yeah, like a giant owl. I say that and people laugh, but that's the only way I can explain it, because he did look like a man, but it kind of looked like a bird as well. But he had no facial features, just a very small head and face compared to the size of the body. And I realised now, and I thought he was wearing a big cloak, it was actually wings and they were closed. For had he opened the wings, the room wouldn't have fitted the wings. It wasn't wide enough because he was massive. And it was just, the wings would have been, the span would have been so wide. That's why I think they were closed.
It kind of reminds me of Hawkman.
I don't know, but I've never had... I know some people have had similar experiences like that, but they've never been menacing to me. I've never felt any animosity from them sort of things that I see.
Oh, did he communicate with you at all?
No, he didn't say anything at all. Just looked at me. He was just looking at me, even though he had no features. He was just there. I knew it was a male. I can't explain how, but I just did. And I just went back to sleep because I didn't feel threatened in any way.
Well, that is a very interesting story.
It's a true story. I know there's people out there that don't believe certain things, but I'm sure other people have had similar experiences. I've had many experiences. I just don't always talk about them. But they've never been, like I say, they've never been menacing. They've always been quite pleasant.
Well, this has been a very interesting conversation, and I'm looking forward to our next show. And so I thank you for your time and your incredible daily experience, which is so different from the ordinary person, but still makes a connection with something higher than what the normal person experiences, including myself. And I'm always grateful for the opportunity to hear your stories. So I will see you.
You're welcome, Johnny.
I'll see you at the next broadcast.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
This is Johnny Bluestar. We all live very closely or within ourselves to an immense journey of self-discovery and adventure. For humanity, both the wide expanse of stars and the infinitely wider space within ourselves beckon us to make that leap forward. Thank you for making Threshold Radio part of your journey. Be well and keep cosmic.